and welcome to another episode of the Digital Embellishment Show. Your host here, Kevin Abergel, with a super awesome guest today. It is my honor to introduce Leiman Chan, the CEO of Nonstop Printing in Hollywood, California. Leiman, how are you doing today, man?
Fantastic. Very happy to be here.
Oh man, Hollywood, that's got to be an interesting market to work in. How did you get into printing? Tell me a little bit more about what's your story, man? How did you get into this little game?
Yeah, so Nonstop Printing, the name, it starts with my dad. He started the company in 1993, and he used to brag all the time, he still does, that when he started back then, there used to be a line of people out down the block waiting for him to make copies. Because when he got into it in 1993, right, printing was at its peak. Right. Digital printing kind of just came out. Xerox was Google back then. Yeah. And he was just killing it. It was what I call the good old days of printing that I didn't get to experience.
I get it, man.
But yeah, that's where he came up with his name, Nonstop. We're very different in a way. I'm always thinking about the business, but for him, his personality is huge. And people just loved him and just has that aura about him. So that's how Nonstop Printing started.
That's beautiful.
And I came in 2011. So I've been about 12 years now, and went to UCLA, worked at Frito-Lay, Pepsi production plant, and I try to take some of the refinement from that process and bring it into the industry. And have been going at it ever since.
Wow. Well, I got to say, Leiman, that's beautiful to hear. I also come from a background with a family company, so I know what that's like. And I think that's kind of beautiful in our industry. I would say it's probably one of those industries where really there's a lot of families involved. A lot of the people that I talk to, their father started it, their grandfather started it, their great-grandfather started it in some cases. We had Gerardo, 100 and something years. His print shop's been a lot all through the family. So I always respect that a lot, because I think that's really a gift that you can pass on to future generations, and it's in your blood. It's really cool. So you guys are in Hollywood. How is that market? Is that a difficult market? Explain to me a little bit what it's like, the LA market, for those of us who don't know.
Boy, that's a question on its own, but I would say the LA market's really competitive. I think when my dad was running the business, it was very cutthroat in a way. And I think our market in general is notorious for, it's merciless. It's merciless when it comes to customers expecting what they can get from us. The printers ourselves, we're merciless with the vendors. Like, supposedly the profit margins for equipment in our areas are just razor thin. So I think it's a notoriously tough place to be. We've seen a lot of people kind of go out of the business. I think for that reason, there's really not that many printers left anymore. So I think the ones that have survived are the ones that are doing better, right? Just because we have an established base. Real estate has just gotten so high that it's just not an easy business to start in general. So it's gotten better. And I would say the printers that are the most successful here are the ones that focus on quality. We have a lot of opportunity here. It is one of the creative capital, in my opinion, it is the creative capital of the world. So I think there's a lot of unique projects going on all the time. And that's the most exciting part about it.
Leiman, that's really cool. So I think it's interesting. There's not a whole lot of people doing digital embellishment in California. I don't know why that market's always been kind of a difficult market for digital embellishments. But tell us about kind of like when you invested in digital embellishment and why, and tell us the story. Like, what have you learned? Tell us, how have your customers reacted to this kind of stuff? Walk us through kind of your story with embellishments, as it were.
So it started with me, or my parents and I, trying to sell the business. I had a 30-year-old crisis, so I started at Nonstop when I was 25, worked for several years. The business was growing at 10%, but we just didn't feel like it was going anywhere, in terms of like my financial dreams. So we tried to sell because we were just like, they didn't need the business. I could start over. When we tried to sell it, it was worth not a whole lot. You know, it was depressing for my parents, and for me, I was like, yep, I didn't expect this, because I didn't feel like we were offering anything that was really exciting. You know.
Yeah.
And as we all know, it is a difficult business. So I had to decide at 30 whether we were going to just sell it and like maybe have a little savings so I can go to business school, or what would it look like if I actually put my whole heart into the business. So before, I definitely tried to do it for the money. Not that it came, but I tried to do it for the money. And I did it because I thought it was going to be easy when I first came in. You know, I thought my parents were doing it wrong. I thought I was going to be, I'm going to run this business real quick and then run 5 more like Elon Musk. Got my ass kicked, you know. And I think at that point I was like, yeah, I was trying to treat it like a business. I didn't treat it like a passion. And it's not like a customer would be able to see that from me, but I knew inside myself, like, that I just wasn't putting everything I had, even though from the outside it probably would look like that. I've always been a really hard worker. I probably modeled from my parents, right? So I didn't know what hard work, what being lazy looked like when it came to business. But also there was, I think, more emotionally that I could have given, mostly in terms of trying to really serve our clients. So I decided, obviously it's been 7 years since that point, I'm 37 now. I decided, cool, let's put my heart into this business. Let's treat this like everything. Let's not think about the immediate short-term gains of money. What would that look like? What would my North Star be if that was the case? And my North Star up to this point has been, how do I obsess over creative people, right? How do I serve creatives? When I looked back at my career, I was like, if the times I was the most energized with the business wasn't like when I got a new machine or figured out this new process. It was when I got together with a creative and created something that they had never seen before. And I really held on to that. And that was the most fulfilling thing. And once I went on that journey, I obviously learned a lot more about our voice and how we were going to try to sell. But also I learned like what would be really amazing to bring to creatives that was hard to get. Creatives are underserved. You know, they're definitely not, a lot of them are not valued, even though they're driving culture, right? And I really want to kind of address that. So that's where it all starts from. That's my true north. And that's when we invested a ton of money into it. We invested into a new bookbinder, a Horizon bookbinder, a 3-knife trimmer. We got the MGI. We got another Konica. Like, I think that year, right after I decided, I went crazy because I was like, you know what, let's go all. I'm like a very all-in guy. Yeah, so I think that at that time we probably invested over almost $700,000 into like different equipment, like committed to that. And the MGI with iFoil was a big part of that journey.
Wow, that's beautiful. I got to tell you, Leiman, you give me goosebumps with your story. I love what you're saying, and to be honest with you, I really relate, because for me, the favorite thing I've ever done when I was working at MGI was when we would be able to show somebody a sample that we did on our machine, and that feeling that holy shit, you know, I used to live for that holy shit feeling when I was sitting down with customers and they'd see the thing and they'd look at you. And I'm guessing that it's very similar with you when you sit down with one of your clients and you know you knocked it out of the ballpark. You just know it's going to be like that. And just that smile, that feeling, I think that's like a drug, man. That's totally addicting when you blow one out of the park like that. So I love it.
Yeah, it's been a never-ending journey of just that feeling. I think when I was doing it for the wrong reasons before the whole 30-year-old crisis thing, I didn't realize how vulnerable creatives had to be in order to print at all. Like it's a scary thing. So let's say you're a creative and you work on something for 3 months you then have to pass that baby to a printer. And within our industry, I don't think we get a good rep. I think most printers are like, go, 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 print, 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 next job in, next job out. And when you have that from an industry, and then you have creatives on the other side of that being like, no, this is something I like really care about, and it needs to turn out well, because this is not a reflection of just the company. This is a reflection of my own identity. Like, I put myself into this work, and if I'm going to pass it to a printer and they're going to treat it like garbage and like it's just another job, that's a really vulnerable place to put a creative. And I didn't realize that until I started obsessing over creatives and talking to them. And as you said, that unboxing is like a very scary moment for a creative, because all the 3 months or a year or decades of work, if you're an artist creating an art book, when you first open that box and look at that book or that postcard or that brochure, it can go both ways. You know what I mean?
I can imagine.
It can be like, oh my gosh, like this printer didn't even look at the output, or these colors didn't look right. And that becomes a reflection of your own work, which is basically a creative's identity. Or they can be thrilled. And once I started understanding like that fork in the road, I realized, oh my gosh, like I have to do everything that I can to get that part right. And that was the beginning of the journey, like the unboxing, right?
Oh my gosh.
So it's tough. It's something that we're still not perfect at yet. Like we really try hard to get every single job. And one of the words that I use now is centerpiece, right? Like when you work with us, you're not necessarily we're not gonna be the lowest price. I'm gonna be honest with you, right? We're gonna be though the printer that you can come to if you want centerpiece level attention. And a lot of it centers around that unboxing, right? Like, because when you open that box, we expect you to scrutinize our products, right?
Because you have value. The value is what you're selling. The value is you and the attention that you're going to give to the product, and that's worth the extra money. It's just like, when you're buying a product in the store, or you're buying, anything, is that typically with a higher price comes, I think, peace of mind and knowing that somebody is really looking at the small little details. And I think that's really important. And that's got to be kind of tough to pull off in a market like LA, where, you were saying it was so competitive, but I think value recognizes value. And I think that's one of the things that you've been able to do. I've seen a lot of your samples that you've done. Very impressed with the work that you do. And I think that's phenomenal. Tell me, Leiman, a little bit more about the digital embellishment. Like, when you got the machine, I think you said 2019, was it?
Around there, yeah.
And if you go back and like have a conversation with Leiman back then, the year that he spent $700,000 on equipment, and give him one piece of advice going into this whole digital embellishment thing, honestly, like what would you have told yourself?
That's a really good question. I think it's the same thing I would tell myself now. Me and you just had a conversation of sales and how to price it. And I think to this day, we still struggle with how to educate clients, how to have really good samples to get people going, and how to give creatives the confidence to design for it. Sure. I would still say we're at the surface level of what the machine's capable of.
Yeah.
Most of the designs that we do are we don't do the super elaborate kind of things. I think mostly because when clients end up talking to us, they like need it pretty badly. So you don't want to take a lot of risks around embellishments, because if you do too much, it can look really cheesy.
Yep, I agree. Right. Less is more.
Yeah, so we definitely go more on the less side, and people are always thrilled. But I know that with this equipment in the right hands, there's so much more that we could do. So I think even now, 5 years later, having more of an infrastructure on education, on having better samples, on giving encouragement to clients to design with it would be the greatest power. And I don't know, it's really tough. I know a lot of different companies have tried to invest in that, but I still haven't spent the time. Our clients don't demand it, right? So I think this is very much a thing you have to be proactive about. Um, and I think, yeah, we do really well with it. I have zero regrets getting the machine, even though it was so expensive, and because it kind of put us at a different level, even beyond embellishments. Like once you have it, people know that if you can do this, then you can do all this other stuff too, right? So I think from a status perspective, it definitely put us on a different category.
Yeah.
But I do think, to me, again, the North Star, how do I help creatives? I actually still think it's completely underserved. I think we could do a lot more.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of work. It's why Tactify exists, right? It's like you are the infrastructure that the industry needs. That it's hard for like an individual company to invest in themselves. Like it takes a lot of work, more than anybody.
It does.
And I think that's the biggest challenge moving forward.
Yeah, it's tough. The educational aspect is, and that's with every new technology that comes out. There's got to be this way to make it easy. And I think right now, the reality of the situation when it comes to digital embellishment is it's not easy, meaning that a lot of a lot of designers don't know how to design for this.
Exactly.
And they don't necessarily teach this at school, right? And I don't know about your experience, because you work a lot with designers and creatives. A lot of these creatives coming out of school today are really being taught how to design more for web than for print. So I don't know how much time you're having to spend and your team in pre-press having to kind of redo a lot of the files or explaining, hey buddy, I know you want it to look like this, but it's physically impossible for the colors to look like this when we're printing it. I know how it looks on your screen. Don't expect the same thing. Like, is that a big part of your day on every job, or is that something where your clients are kind of getting wiser on it?
Yeah, I would say a big part of our success is that we see ourselves as teachers. So I spend most of my time teaching,
I love that.
educating, because again, it goes back to the vulnerable place. People are comfortable in web. You get to see your results instantaneously. Where print, you're making a physical good. Like that's really hard, right? And so I think most of the time it is a lot of assurance. It's a lot of obsession about how to get to the artist's intent from the beginning, and a lot of that is coaching, setting good expectations. But that is my greatest strength, actually. It's the teaching, and I'm actually in the process of like, how do I get the rest of my team to be equally good at that, right? Because there's only so much you can scale that, and I do have like our own plans of creating our own platform one day to basically like increase experimentation. Right now, print is not a safe space for experimentation. It's too expensive. The equipment is way too much for people to double around. But I think there's a lot of overcapacity printers have, but there's no structure in how to take advantage of that overcapacity in a way that creates a safe environment for creatives to create. So that's like probably my lifelong dream. That's what it really is. It's how to create a safe place for people to innovate. I think it's why America struggles with printing in general. Europe and a lot of other countries, I think there's still a lot of this. There's a lot of honor in print, where I think in America, personally, I believe that it's been kind of gutted. It's turned into like a commodity. It's bottom dwelling in a lot of ways. And I think it's because, again, we've outsourced most of our manufacturing. Print's one of the few things that have kind of stuck around because you have to, right? But I think there just hasn't been that much focus, not just print, but manufacturing in general. This is a big struggle in our country. And I just want to find ways to get people to make stuff again,
Leiman, you are dropping nuggets of wisdom, like very insightful stuff coming from you today, and I really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it's been a great discussion with my good friend Leiman. If you want to find out more about Leiman, you can go to www.nonstopprint. Is it nonstop print?
Nonstopprinting.com.
Printing.com. And find out some more information about all the great and beautiful things that he does, especially in the high-end, really, really wonderful pieces. Leiman, you've been a phenomenal guest. Thank you so much for your time today, my friend. And we look forward to having you back on the show again, having some more discussions on especially this, because I think honestly you're hitting the nail on the head on a lot of things that you're saying. We're exactly, us at Tactful see exactly the same way the market, and thank God there are printers out there like you who, number one, understand how to sell value and understand the value of educating their customers in order to generate more business and better looking stuff too. And so thank you for all the work that you do for us, Leiman. We're proud to have you as a friend, and we will have you back on shortly.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Thanks for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
All right, see you, man.